Today I'm gonna make something for the first time. I've never made it, but I have watched videos that absolutely rave about it, and it's called sweet onion jam. It is a recipe from Linda's Pantry, from Linda's Pantry. So I'll leave a link to her channel below so you can go and subscribe to her channel, because she has been the one that's inspired me to start canning again and make a lot of different recipes. So this is a sweet onion jam recipe that I'm also going to can. And the recipe is pretty simple. It is basically just onions, balsamic vinegar, brown sugar, then a little bit of salt and a little bit of butter to saute the onions in, as well as your canning jars. And that's it. So it's pretty simple. You don't have to can it, but you can. So the recipe calls for 8 large onions, which is, the recipe actually calls for 20 cups of onions, which is approximately 8 large onions. 2 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar, and let's see, 3 cups of brown sugar, and about 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'm going to actually double that recipe because I want to make a bunch of this, because I know that I'm going to love it. If you know, everyone raves about it, I know I'm going to love it, and I'm going to want to share it. So that's why I am making a double batch. So I have these sweet onions I got from Sam's. They're Peru sweet onions, 6 pounds. I have 2 bags. Not super excited about chopping up these onions, so I'm not going to hand chop these. I'm going to use this little handy dandy chopper. I'm going to use the large insert. You see that, the large insert? The smaller one is about half of this. You want your onions to have a little bit of size to them so they don't completely cook down to nothing, but you also want them chopped small enough to where it becomes more of a jam consistency, which is what it is intended for. So I'm going to cut the ends off of these onions, peel off the outer layer, and then I'm going to start chopping and measuring out my chopped onions. So when I get this started and moving along, I will come back. I'm back. I have a few more onions left to do, so I thought I would do a few on camera so you can see how well this little handy dandy chopper works. So let me move this down. Okay, so I've found that it helps to quarter your onions. Like so. And then you take your quarter, sit it on there. I like to press it in just a little bit and then slam it shut. Take your quarter, press it in. All right, there was half an onion done already. So I am still on schedule with my 20 minutes per 6-pound bag of onions. Oh, I can tell it's full because this blade popped up a little bit. So you take that out. This just comes off the hinges very easily. Then I have my 4-cup measuring cup here. Then put the top back on, slide the blade in, and then start again. See, and then if a little bit gets pushed out, you just put it right back in. Are you laughing at me?
My eyes are burning.
Uh-oh. My husband's eyes are burning too, all the way in the living room. So this is what 32 cups of onions look like. All right, we're going to go over the roaster. All right, I hope y'all can see this here. So I'm going to add about a half a stick of butter. You need something to saute your onions in so we can get them caramelized. There's not going to be too much fat in here considering the amount of onions we have and other ingredients we have, so it'll be okay. So now I am doing this in the roaster because I wanted to double the recipe, and then come to find out I didn't get enough onions to double the recipe. But I don't really have a pot big enough for this many onions, so I'm gonna try the roaster. This is where the time comes in. You know, it took me 40 minutes, I guess, to peel, chop, and prepare all those onions, which isn't that bad, I don't believe. So now we're going to get this butter melted. I'm going to grab a paper towel. Get this butter melted and add the onions. And then we're going to salt our onions a little bit to get them started sweating. And then we're going to let them cook and caramelize for about an hour and 15 minutes. Now, since I'm halving the recipe, I'm halving the recipe, it might take a little bit longer. It'll take you about 45 minutes if you're doing a half recipe, about an hour and 15 if you're doing the full 20 cups. All right, so let's add the onions. That is a lot of onions. All right, now since we are going to can this, I'm going to go ahead and use canning salt. I know a couple people that I watched that replicated Linda's recipe, went ahead and used canning salt. I don't believe Linda did, but I'm going to go ahead and use canning salt just to be consistent. So I'm going to use 3 teaspoons since I'm 1.5 in the recipe. Alright, so now I'm going to probably stir it about every 15 minutes until we get some good caramelization going. So after about an hour and 15 minutes, that's when we're going to add some other ingredients. So we'll be back. I'm back. So this is what I have after an hour and 15 minutes. I can see that there is a color difference between what the camera is showing and what the actual color of the onions are. So I have a light golden color on these onions right now. They need to be a nice deep brown caramelized color. So this is an hour and 15 minutes, and this would be a lot closer to the right amount of time and color if I were doing a single batch, I would expect. So I'm going to guess that it might take about another half hour, but we will let you know when we come back and when we are ready to add our balsamic vinegar and our brown sugar. Okay, I'm back. So this took about 2 hours and 10 minutes to get to where this is right now, and I will move the camera down and show you. Again, I'm using a roaster, so that could also be a factor in the reasoning as to why this has taken so long. And again, I did a batch and a half instead of one. So let me move the camera down. All right, so you can see it's a lot more golden brown now, and there are a few pieces of burnt onion from that have gotten stuck on the sides. So I've been picking those out as I see them, just because I don't want there to be any like crunchy pieces in the jars. All right, so now it is time to add our balsamic vinegar. So we are adding 2 1/4 cups for one batch. And for me, I'm doing a batch and a half, so that's going to be a little less than 3 1/2 cups. And also 3 cups of sugar, brown sugar, packed brown sugar. And for me, that would be 4 1/2. Alright, so at this point, Linda suggests to taste it and see if you need more vinegar or more sugar. Holy cow, that's good. I don't know if I need more vinegar or more sugar. I need to get another spoon. I'm going to say maybe a little more brown sugar. That taste was a little tart. So there's about another 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Alright, so now we let this simmer and cook down for another 15 minutes. With me, it might take a little bit longer since I'm using the roaster here and have done more than one batch. So while this is reducing, I'm going to get my jars ready. I'm back. You can see that I'm no longer in the roaster. It was not doing it for me. I went ahead and went back to a pot, especially now that it had been reduced on the stove, because it was not going quick enough in the roaster. I couldn't get it up to a boil to where I could get it to reduce. So this is what we look like now. You can see it is a little watery for what you would think for a jam, but it will thicken up. There's a lot of sugar in there and it will thicken up when it cools down. It's piping hot right now. So I've tasted it several times and it is excellent. I can see why everyone seems to love this sweet onion jam. So I'm going to flip you around and we're going to get these into some jars. Alright, we'll do another one. I've got a hot jar out of the canner. I'm going to fill my 1/2 pints to a 1/4 inch headspace, making sure I have equal amounts of onion and liquid, so that I don't, fill up one jar with all liquid and no onion. Debubble just in case there's any air bubbles. We want to keep our 1/4 inch headspace. You don't want to evacuate any of our product here. Clean the rim off with some vinegar. Check for any nicks. Grab a ring and a lid. My oven mitt, because these jars are so hot. Fingertip tight and back in the canner. All right, can you see me? You can see me. So I have everything in the water bath canner now. Surprisingly, I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 half pints and 1 pint. I had to use a pint jar because I was going to have too many half pints. So that's good. Maybe I had more onions than I thought. So I wanted you to see though, and up close. It's kind of hard to see how, well, you can see how dark it is, but it's kind of hard to see the onions in there, but it's really good. So this is our refrigerator jar. I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit and put it in the refrigerator. So with water bath canning, per recommendations from the Center for Home Food Preservation, that's right. If you are water bath canning or pressure canning for 10 minutes or longer, you do not have to sterilize your jars, but you do want to make sure that they're very clean. So all of my jars I wash with soap and water, and all of the lids and the rings. So shouldn't have an issue there. That is a very easy thing to do. You know, some people think that sanitizing the jars takes a really long time. It's really not that big of a deal, especially now with further studies. You don't have to sterilize if you're water bath canning or pressure canning for 10 minutes or longer. So easy peasy. With water bath canning, I have about 2 inches of water over my tallest jar here, and I'm going to bring this up to a boil, a rolling boil that you cannot stir down, and then I'm going to start my time for 10 minutes. Once the 10 minutes is up, I'm going to turn the heat off and let it sit for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to take the jars out, and then I can wait for them to cool down and label them and get them on the shelf. So I definitely will have some to share, which is why I did more than the 20 cups of onions to begin with. So that's good. So when these are finished, I'll bring you back. It shouldn't be too long this time. All right, the first batch of many, probably, of sweet onion jam is done. It's really, really good. It reminds me of an oniony barbecue sauce that has chunks of onion in it, but way better. So I'm excited to try this on all kinds of things, even crackers and cream cheese, not just meat dishes. So again, remember, you don't have to can this. You can make a small batch and put it in the refrigerator. It'll last quite a while. With a half batch or a quarter batch on the stove, you don't even have to can it, but I would definitely give this recipe a try. And don't forget to visit Linda's Pantry's YouTube page that I will leave a link to in the comments below. Happy canning!